Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we watched Fist of the North Star, the 1995 American live-action movie adaptation. The film was a co-production between American company First Look Studios and Japanese company Osla Pictures. The film was released direct-to-video. A Japanese dub of the film was produced by Toei Video, which featured the cast of the 1980s anime television series reprising their roles. The film, which loosely adapts the first story arc of the original manga, centers on Ken, the lone master of the North Star Martial Arts School, who wanders the post-apocalyptic Earth in search of his nemesis, Lord Shin, the man who killed his master and kidnapped his fiancée. Meanwhile, Shin rules as dictator of the city of Southern Cross with his personal army, known as the Crossmen, who are given orders to hunt down Kenshiro. So how'd y'all feel about this American live-action adaptation of an anime?
I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
It was definitely an interpretive, very expressive of its time.
Yeah.
It is. It. I said it in the film, and I'll say it here. It sure was a movie we watched.
I will say off the bat that this is probably going to be, this is going to be a little short episode because we not only did we watch the movie just now, but we also recorded basically a commentary track for it. And so that'll be available separately. So I think a lot of our thoughts are going to be in there. So this is just sort of a
final thoughts.
Yeah, I keep calling it a debriefing, but we're basically just jumping into our final thoughts about this movie.
Yeah.
Little did they know our hero doesn't wear briefs.
Oh, there were a lot of unnecessary nut shots in that movie.
There's so many nut shots.
I swear to God, Kenshiro was going to break that boulder that he crushed like a baby in his arm with his actual balls.
Uh-huh.
I was waiting for that too.
Like, wow, that's a real show there. That's a what's it? God, the word I'm looking for, my mind is blanking on. Don't worry about it. Continue.
On the actor for doing those splits, though.
Yeah. Oh, and the high kicks, like again, I was saying this, but like he's not ripped and bulky. Well, okay, first of all, that British man is not. I would not assume that he would be named Kenshiro. That doesn't sound right. But like,
no,
as far as
Kenshiro,
right? Oh yeah. Shiro in quotes because he's a white boy. Wait, that actually kind of works. Anyway. Oh my God! It's the White Fist because he's a good guy. I just got it. Oh no!
Fist of the White Fist.
White. But like he's good at being a dude who is like very, very toned, but not necessarily like big and bulky. He is sort of the runt, and in that sense, I think he's an all right casting.
I mean, there was one major surprise casting. If we're going to talk about casting. Because
not such a surprise as he was in the intro.
Well,
yeah,
it was
you
a
see
surprise.
his name pop up, but then you're like, okay, who's he gonna be?
Yeah, because let me tell you, the movie clearly had a limited budget, and I would say probably 90% of it went to paying for less than 30 minutes of Malcolm McDowell.
Oh,
never standing up.
He never stood up.
Yeah, like, I fully expect. There's going to be a cribs of Malcolm McDowell's place, and you're going to realize the set that was on is just like his, meditation room in his garden.
So, would you like to know the budget for this movie?
Yeah.
No, but do it anyway.
$5 million.
What?
Okay, so all of the budget went to less than 30 minutes of Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah. That's they only had like the two matte paintings.
It was filmed over the course of 30 days on a soundstage in LA.
I bet this whole cast was interns.
Much of that was blood shooting out of bodies.
Yes.
Yeah, like
that one broken jaw.
with lovely airsoft guns.
Yeah, they did have the prosthetics for some of the crazy injuries.
They had the head exploding.
Yeah.
Multiple heads were exploded. Like you got. He never tried for the yata ta 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 ta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did he with every karate chop though?
Yeah.
There were a lot of unnecessary noises happening.
Ah,
He.
ah.
It's who is not Greg Davis? That's Greg Davies. That's not anybody. Who was that?
Greg
fool's name?
Davies is the host of Taskmaster.
Yeah, so it's not him. I don't think he played Kenshiro. But like, yeah, but between the splits and like, they did the thing where it was edited so quickly. Every shot was short. And that's partly because everything was on a sound stage, so they couldn't do like big shots. But also like, I assume they didn't know how to like stage fight particularly well, so you just get like half a hit and then cut away for the like transition to the next half a hit. But like there are a couple of shots of him doing like high kicks and spin kicks, and I gotta give it to him. Like he made like the fight didn't look good, but some of the moves in this looked okay. They were just shot very poorly, you know?
Yeah.
Was choreographed well, although the combat wasn't great.
Yeah.
I'm glad we watched it the way we did because it absolutely deserved the MST3K kind of treatment.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely the kind of movie you watch, like, you know, with a beer and a couple of friends.
Yeah, like I made a joke during it, and I'll bring that up here. Like at one point, I said like, you know, take a drink every time they say like Fist of the North Star, or I
Or
forget what
there's
the
a
other one.
nut shot.
Yeah, or there's a nut shot, and I'm like, you know, that sounds like a funny idea at first, but like, I don't want to be responsible for someone telling someone to like essentially drown their liver and end up in the ER. This movie is absolutely meant. Whether the rest of the cast knew it, this movie is absolutely meant to be panned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, was it somebody's passion project that they made the deals, or like did they actually think like this was probably something where like somebody was just like, hey, if you check this out, this has got like a pretty big following, let's try to like make it, because we've had lots of adaptations of, you know, especially in like late 80s early to mid 90s, like there was a lot of like, hey, this is popular Japanese anime or whatever, let's try to adapt it. Like that's
We
My
what we got.
grandkid watches that.
We got the Dragon Ball Evolution movie.
That was like early aughts.
Yeah, that was definitely early aughts.
But like Power Rangers, right? Like that's Saban doing a you know, common kind of show, and then we got Power Rangers out of it. You make them all Angel Valley teens.
Yeah, it's like, what was it? Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, that whole shebang.
The lost Saban version of Sailor Moon. Y'all know about this?
Yes, actually, in between all of my research for Uta and then other things I've been looking at, yes, that has actually come up a lot.
Yeah, but somebody actually found it. I don't think I've actually sat to watch it yet, but just like, but it's like that kind of thing, you know? Like I wonder if they were trying to do that about like, oh, let's make an adaptation of this, and they just like somebody really didn't believe in the project, and that's why it got such a small budget, and they were just like, all right, I guess we'll try and do it.
Yeah, that thing I think only exists in like the darkest corners of YouTube.
Got the feeling of reverse, like it was going to be a feature film. Then they showed it to the test audience, and because it didn't do well, they're like, well, we're going to try to recoup some money by at least getting it out on video. Because the cast, you mentioned Mr. McDowell, but the other cameo that we had that wasn't really a cameo was our good friend Rufio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there were some visible faces. I'm trying to remember if Hook came out before or after this.
Well, there was rat-looking
okay,
guy
after.
that is in everything, but you don't know his name.
Mm-hmm.
We had Downtown Julie Brown.
Oh my god, that's a name. That's a name someone calls themselves.
I'm trying to, like, I know that name. I don't know from where, but that's like, she was also a name. Like, I don't think that lands for us.
Really?
But at the time, I believe Downtown Julie Brown would have landed.
Are you sure you're not
Downtown
thinking
Julie
of
Brown?
Are you sure you're not thinking of Big Bad Leroy Brown?
I am not.
First off, that's bad Leroy Brown.
Whatever.
Are you
Listen,
thinking of
that's-
Big Bad Beetleborgs?
Listen, at this point, I'm in something of a fugue state after what happened. I'm not even sure where I am.
But downtown Julie Brown was a MTV VJ of the day.
Really? Okay.
Whoa.
So like it's really weird. There are parts of this where they try, and
I think
And
Bob
that's
might
why I
actually be
think
right.
it was live action where maybe it went a little overboard just slightly watching it. I think extremely.
Hold on. To piggyback off what Bob's saying, I can even kind of see a train of thought here. Yo, that Mad Max thing, make some money, very popular. We need a Mad Max. Yeah, but we don't want to, put any effort into actually creating our own and building it own. Let's find something else. My son, grandson, whatever, reads the Japanese comics. He likes the Ken Shiro, first name Ken, last name Shiro. I'm
Mhm.
sure this is, adaptable. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
God, Road Warrior was 81 though.
What studio made this again?
Look.
First Look, yeah.
Okay, I can imagine, since I don't think any of us have heard of it since then. I imagine they were pretty slow on the ball getting anything started to begin with. Joe is now going to correct me. At least I'm assuming that's what that key clicking was.
There's a lot of key. Like it's so
I have to make sure it's the right one.
Fair.
it's
I just read something I didn't want to read on Wikipedia.
oh no.
Enlighten us.
Genuinely want to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do it.
100% you want to know?
Audience
Yeah.
votes yes.
Okay. Because I was looking up Wikipedia to see if there's any information. I'm sure it's been through her studies, but I read through the reception area.
Oh no.
Actor Gary Daniels' nickname on the set was Condom Man, in reference to the prosthetic used to create the famous chess cars being made from unrolled condoms.
They were literally condoms, yes.
Trojan
know that.
Man. Kids, ask your family about Trojan Man. Ask your family about the '90s commercials for Trojan Man. Those were a thing.
What I really don't know what to like say about this movie. Like
My question is, if you saw this movie without knowing anything about the anime, how would that hit you?
And I'm gonna say, even in that best case scenario of you have friends and probably drinks, like
You see, my mind went to, what if I was watching this? What would be the context that I might find this on my own? Had we not been already deep in the weebs? You said the thing. And I was thinking, like, this is something I feel like back in like 04, 05, thereabouts, I would have found on like Sci-Fi Channel on like a Saturday or Sunday, like middle of the afternoon.
You're making me feel old. I'm
making
Sunday
me feel old
afternoon
too.
Fox in the late 90s.
Oh yeah, or whatever channel it was when I lived in Michigan. It was out of Chicago that had the Action Power Hour.
Oh yeah. See,
yeah.
This very much strikes me as like the kind of stuff that Ricky was showing us when we were in college.
Yeah, definitely.
Like this is right there with like, what was it, Brain Bread with the just like the gore horror movies, like just like holding up the lawnmower and fountains of blood. Like this almost feels like it is in there in terms of just like, oh, this is like cheap and ridiculous and not good, but you can have a fun time with it. Like I don't know if it like goes hard enough in any of those directions to become like a cult on its own. A cult classic, I guess I mean.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Keep the word classic away from this, I think.
Not long ago for my anime club movie night, I watched I selected the animated Fists of the North Star standalone movie. which is interesting because it is also a weird, like, abbreviated retelling of, like, the first half of the series. So it is, you know, all of the same pieces, but smush a couple of characters together and also skip over a lot of things, but still hit, like, a lot of the same notes. And, like, that is one where when they introduce Kenshiro, it's just by having him, like, walk through the desert in a cape so you can't see his face, and then a skyscraper falls on him and he just walks through the falling skyscraper like slicing through a birthday cake. And it's just like, okay, that's, but, like, there is a version of that where it's, like, so anime ridiculous that it's just like, you know what, if you only knew it as this and didn't know of any, like, the series behind it, that could be enough to leave on its own. I don't know. Do you think you're gonna, like, remember this even, like, a year from now and just be like, man, that movie, like, is this gonna be the one where it's like,
To answer that, legitimately, I think if I remember this in a year, it's because someone says something and it triggers that one section of my brain that's always on standby with this, like, emergency nuclear option button of, like, let's just subject him to this memory right now. And it's going to have to be some conversation, either directly or very tangentially related to it, that makes me think of it.
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, like, go on.
After you.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't think this one, like, necessarily, you know, creates a lasting memory of its own, but I think it is excellent fodder for, like, a movie to inflict on friends. It's just like, oh, you just said something related, you're in for it now. Like, that is literally how we got here today.
I'm gonna go a step farther. I have been that boyfriend of, like, okay, we've been together for X amount of time. Like, here is an anime film you would like. Maybe not a Ghibli film, but here's a film that, you can get into and see why I appreciate this art form. I could see myself, if I ever had a girlfriend at heretofore, we'll say at least a year before I would be, hey, honey, let's sit down. Want a movie night? No, that's perfectly fine. No, it's an absolutely normal movie night. That's why I made all this stuff, and we're staying in, and the door's locked from the outside, and we're gonna watch this movie. just to see their reaction and see how strong the relationship is at that point. Because I figure if I have a relationship that can survive me subjecting and inflicting this, because inflicting is an absolutely accurate term for this, on a partner, then that's how you know it's love, man.
In that sense, now that I'm looking at our list here, because it won't be too long before we're touching on this already. I have put at least 2 more entries on our list here that are in exactly that same position of just like, oh, this is something I use to test the strength of my relationship with a friend. And I have 2 of these on here, and I noticed that we did not put Ninja Scroll on here, so that would be a third. And it's just like, all exactly.
Scroll?
Don't worry about it, Bob. Let me go down I'm just going down to our season 2 possibilities list and typing Ninja Scroll.
That's all right. On my master list of shirt ideas, top of the list now is "Don't worry about it, Bob."
That's actually really good. We should actually.
Yeah, I could do that one.
Yeah. I've been secretly working on a few, but I will absolutely take your input and refinement.
But, like,
anyway,
yeah, I think this movie really, it does something right because it actually does live on that list with a lot of other anime. So in that sense, with being an anime adaptation, I think it actually is surprisingly successful.
I mean, if we're gonna subject Bob to weird things, do we just tie him to a chair and make him watch Avatar, The Last Airbender, the film?
Believe me, I already have a list that I've been making for the theater.
I haven't watched that one. I've only watched like 10 minutes of Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was also in my head. Like, we're just gonna make Bob suffer. After saying we're gonna make Bob suffer through things,
I have an already in progress list of movies of Western live action adaptations of animated franchises.
I mean, also we mentioned it during the movie, but you said that the Kenshiro actor was in a Tekken movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could also start talking about video game movie adaptations, and that's a podcast with a different name.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if it comes out of Japan as a video game, is it not already just an anime? In potentia?
I don't think they ever made an anime based on Takeshi's Challenge.
Well, as I said, in potentia.
Sure. I don't know. There's a lot of like, what about that airline management game? No, they would make an anime out of that. Dang it.
They would. Listen, they made a show literally called Cells at Work off of a manga called Cells at Work about how your body work.
Well, I mean, that's just the Eastern adaptation of Osmosis Jones.
God, you're actually kind of right, I think.
Also
I do believe
that
hasn't been out.
Season 2. Okay, so
It's actually a thing.
yeah,
which one?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, Bob.
Actually, I wouldn't actually worry about it, Bob. Believe me,
It's fine.
Osmosis Jones is weaker.
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot of good things about Cells at Work, actually.
In fact, just a side tangent, Cells at Work, Bob, not only has this how your body work, they have a Cells at Work Black, and it's because it's the show about someone who doesn't take care of their body, and kind of how things can go darkly for your body that way.
Like there's a National Geographic show about this or something.
I mean, it kind of is.
It's educational.
Bob, you'll love platelets.
Oh, platelets are good. Let's try one more angle.
Okay.
Because part of the reason why we're watching this movie is because we did all sit down and watch the Fist of the North Star series, or a selection there of it. How do we feel? We already ranked that, and since this didn't really have a theme song or robot waifu or anything, didn't even have a horse. Like I don't think this is going to this isn't going to get properly ranked on any of our lists or anything.
Yeah.
But
Could the child count as a horse? Because Malcolm McDowell possessed her.
Gave her blue contacts.
Just because Malcolm McDowell was a dark passenger doesn't mean that the girl is a horse.
Of course.
Of course. How do y'all feel it fares? Because like obviously, like I said during the movie, the parts where it's just like, oh yeah, this is canon from the show. This is these two characters that they stuffed together. This is they are loosely covering the first arc. Like, how did y'all feel as like in terms of enjoyment, in terms of like just like seeing the parallels between the show and the movie?
I feel like this is a situation of, if you ever watched a movie that said names and places may have been changed and do not actually reflect anyone in the real world. For me, it's like totally separate things, even though there is some parallel. He did have the spots, I guess, on his chest. And he did say the one thing only once, which is really kind of disappointing compared to everything else.
Yes. Can we dogpile on that for a second and say, oh my god, that line delivery of "you don't know it, but you're already dead" was the most lackluster delivery of that line possible.
There was also something about like the way he like turned and hunched his shoulders as he said it was very like middle school edgelord energy.
As soon as you said that, I was thinking like, this is the like teenager that walked out of Hot Topic after bumping into someone who just hasn't realized he needs to grow up for 5 seconds.
Yes.
You're already dead.
Yeah, because he even had that kind of attitude. Ugh, you're already dead.
Just like, oh
Dude.
man, he doesn't even know he's already dead. Like he's almost talking to himself just to make
Yeah.
himself feel cool. Like,
you're all dumb. Ugh. Just like, oh man, it really had that energy.
you're lucky my
Like, I
mom
feel like
gotta
a
pick me up now or you'd be dead.
I feel like a deep South American accent version of that would be more threatening. I mean, obviously it would have a banjo accompaniment in the background, which then would make it really threatening. But yeah, like but yeah, you're
I feel
right,
like
Bob.
I feel like it's like pretty similar to a lot of others, like generic 80s kind of action punchy movies.
Mhm.
With like a loose skin of Fist of the North Star over it.
Sure. It's the opposite of names and places have been changed. It's names and places have been kept, and everything else, oh, we guessed. Okay, so speaking of the 80s, and I guess maybe this mostly talks about Shin and his opulence, because it really is like when you're hanging out with Kenshiro in Oasis, Mad Max, but when you're hanging out with Shin in Southern Cross, like he is living a very 80s lifestyle. Like,
yeah, I think my phrase was 80s glam rock star.
yeah,
His statue has angular chest.
It do.
That statue
It
was
was
a choice.
weirdly the aesthetic was like weirdly like Soviet bloc like art style, like with the giant posters and the pointiness of that statue and a lot of the like brutalist architecture.
And the style of
collection
those
of,
posters.
Yeah.
Did he have a collection of grocery store items? Did we ever establish that?
Yeah, I have like cans with their labels removed, a blatantly obvious Gatorade bottle with no label. I believe it was orange.
I feel like he was trying to show off water, but it really did not convey that well.
Mhm.
This is that like Uber 1%. These are my rare items of antiquity on display, Mr. Bond moment.
And it was cool, like, again, cheap and like poorly shot or whatnot. Like, there were people on this production who I really want to give credit to, because like even though they were so contrasting, I do like the way a lot of the outfits looked and the way that they were adapted from anime designs, or just like made sense for like wasteland and wasteland opulence.
Mhm.
Stuff like, you know, the collection, like they never called attention to the fact that they are like, hey, these are like the most pristine scavenged items we could find, and I'm just displaying them as a show of wealth. Like that is just like the sets were all on like one soundstage that they just rebuilt a couple of times over the 30-day period they filmed, but like they were decently designed. We never even got a tell for why Shin's throne had a clock on it.
It said Rolex.
Did it really?
No, that's
Oh,
my
okay.
excuse.
He's got them in them
Now
Rolex
in my
chairs.
head, yeah. Now in my head, there's like some future attempt by Hollywood to make to essentially, let's say, remake this, assuming they remember this exists, but to make a big budget Fist of the North Star, and there will be Shin's throne room, and he'll be taking Yulia through and says, showing her his fine antiquities, like, ah, yes, the hubcap of a 2001 PT Cruiser. It's like the finest in evening delights, and it's just craft dinner.
Oh, the one intact box of blue mac and cheese, the blue box, yeah.
And his most cherished possession is just a truck full of Twinkies.
Now I just picture him walking around with a red wig, describing all the things in his cave, the misnamed items. You might say he
With
has
his fish friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh my. Okay, but that almost works, because we were saying that if we were going to redo this movie, we would have to basically make it Zoolander versus Brendan Fraser, right? And that's a very Zoolander kind of gag to do.
Yeah, because, man, the looks of Kenshiro and Shin absolutely look like Ben Stiller and Brendan Fraser, respectively. It's just, wow.
The piercing blue eyes, like he does a very forced like blue steel look in every shot.
Yeah.
Impressively never blinking.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else got anything? I've reached the bottom of my things I can say about this movie. It's fun to watch together, but like,
yeah,
it is just kind of a bad, like it barely ranks as a good bad movie.
I was going to chime in. You know, you were asking kind of, what would you think of this if I was taking this in the context of like, what would I think of this if I hadn't seen the show, if I'd seen this first? And I was approaching it just now from the idea of like, okay, what if I saw this in, say 2004 on sci-fi or whatever in the middle of the day? I'm like, wow, that was definitely a movie someone made. And if I heard of it later in life, depending on how much later, like let's say in my mid 20s, I would probably just balk at it. It's like, no, I'm never going to watch it because the show is clearly a clear 1-to-1 based on my appreciation of things at that time. And to the show, I mean, it makes X-Men 3 look good. But if I saw it, or if I had seen it first, and then let's say even 5 years ago I'd heard of it, or heard of the anime, I'm like, oh, I wonder if the anime is like really that absurd, or if it's just a bunch of guys with way too little money and understanding of what they actually had in front of them. And I think I would watch it then if I hadn't have heard of the anime first.
That would be a really weird, like, that's such like a weird transition to think about going to it that way, because like I think the strongest the thing about this movie that like remains the strongest memory is just like the befuddlement that it exists, that the artifact that it is. But the idea of like going from this to the show, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know, like I guess you're not getting like a false bill of goods, but also like some of the like best things about the show are not what's captured here in the movie, right?
I feel like you're getting a very like first look at it with no real understanding of it view. Like first time you, in a sense, baby's first manga approach. It's like I clearly read this and I saw what it did. I didn't do any further thinking or analyzing of it. I just took it face value. I feel like that's kind of what we got without any nuance.
Yeah, it's the community theater production, but they didn't have a script. They had the cliff notes.
Oh, yeah.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have anything to really rank from this show. We can't even ask, hey, Bob, are you going to keep watching it? Because we're done with it now.
I mean, yeah, no, it's Bob. A movie. We don't need any of that.
Hold on. I'm going to put Bob in kind of a situation of that, though. And I'm going to use my example from earlier. Hey, Bob, in like a year or two from now, and you sit down with your partner and you try to get them on the anime bandwagon. Do you test the strength of your relationship with this movie? Are you strong enough do you think your relationship is strong enough to survive this movie?
If they're like us and enjoy bad movies like this, then like, yeah,
absolutely. Watching this
watch.
is a bad movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
This would fall under, we're bored, what should we watch? And we literally have nothing else to watch. I would watch this again. Just because
would you spring this on your partner?
Yeah.
Okay. Go straight in, like, no, I have a movie we can watch, and not tell them anything, give them any expectation.
Might tell them a few of the stars just to give them hope.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, Malcolm McDowell's in this movie.
Because I can tell you right now, if someone said, yeah, Malcolm McDowell's in it, ooh, Malcolm McDowell, it's got to be at least some degree good.
He's really outstanding in his field. Not in this movie, he's not.
Yeah. British star of screen and stage, Malcolm McDowell.
He makes an appearance.
And a lot of vocal work. Hey, remember how at the start of the movie he was basically doing like a voiceover narration, and then they just forgot to keep doing that by the end?
I just appreciate the true to manga and anime depiction of the ultimate finishing move that ends Malcolm McDowell. Gun. Gun with bullet deployment.
Oh my god. So when Jackal pulls out a gun near, I guess it's the end of the second act, like, he pulled out, it's a gun I only know from like COD, but it's like a Dragunov like sniper rifle. It's like, okay, that's a hell of a pull to go from a revolver to that. What time are you set in?
Yeah, this is... This was made back when 1999 was still the far future of 4 years later.
Yeah. Oh, what a time.
What a time to have been alive.
The good old days.
Yeah, and remember being alive and watching it not play out anywhere near that.
God. Okay, let's shall we talk about next week?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's time to look
mean
at the list.
Next time
on, because this was our little in-between breather at the midpoint of all of the shows that we have, more or less.
Yep.
If I may add in, because I will save more on it for the next episode, but I have maybe been watching and or finished a show for my own personal homework per our last episode of Deep in the Weebs.
Okay. Okay.
So I will borrow, especially from the episode we watched of that. Man, New Year's was really hard on us, so we're going to give you this filler episode that we have just presented to you. Next week, though, or next time, we're going to get back to normal.
Mm-hmm. Next time, we'll be starting the Modern Average Anime Fair tier, which has a bunch of anime from more recent years.
Which
that
makes it
we
average.
enjoy.
It's more average in the sense of this is kind of what you can expect to see kind of nowadays.
Yeah.
Though I would say
Okay.
at least, I'm looking at least 2 of them, and I haven't seen anything like them since they came out. I've seen, and one of them, the last one as we see it listed on our side, not necessarily how we're presented to Bob, one of those, I think we've seen a lot of interpretations and attempts to be that, and just outright fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's definitely a tribute to a lot of things previously before. But yeah,
it's not
so
the actual song.
should I just give you the options?
I think I
Bring
would,
it on.
I think I
Oh,
would
go
kind
ahead.
of describe this tier as it's average because most of these, even if they're well regarded, you kind of hear about them while they're airing and then conversation moves on from them. Not because they're average in quality, but it's just yeah, this is what's going on. And then, except for the one, but we'll get to that.
Let me throw this out there. Chances are I've heard of some of these.
Yeah.
Maybe. I would say definitely
least-
one of them.
At least 2 of them we have mentioned by name on the podcast previously.
Okay.
Probably in throwaway lines.
One of them you've heard since we were roommates, definitely, at least in passing in discussion.
Alright. Before I read these, I'm just going to ask, is it pronounced Gilnana?
Gelnana.
Gelnana. Okay.
Oh no.
Alright.
Don't worry about it, Bob.
Here are your options. There are notably 6 shows in this category, so
Okay.
Strap
it's
in.
kind of a lot to get through, but here are your options. Can I offer you a nice Gelnana in this trying world line? Mars has got talent. Mine is the drill that will pierce the heavens. Gangsters cause a ruckus on a train, and also everyone is immortal. Mr. and Mrs. Forger. And just a guy who's a hero for a hobby.
That's all of them.
That's all of them.
I feel like, after that, we need a nice relationship story. I think Mr. and Mrs. Forger will be my choice.
Alright.
Nice.
We will be
Yes.
watching Spy Family.
Bob, this is gonna be such a divergence from what we've had recently. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. This is... I can't say anything. I haven't seen the show, actually. I'm excited to watch this.
This is great.
By family?
It's Spy. There's the character X, as in the letter character X, and then family. I don't believe the X is actually pronounced.
Is it Spy Cross Family?
Think of it like Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter x Hunter.
Oh no!
By
no.
family.
So we'll pick episodes. Well, I guess Chuck will pick episodes and get back to us with those. And we don't really have anything else at the end of the episode to do.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and hit the button. that'll make the music start playing, and we'll tell everybody to see you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fist of the
Ahoy!
North Star. Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. Cotty 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
Okay, bonus points. Can anybody name any of the names of these special moves that we covered in our regular Fist of the North Star episodes?
Absolutely
Good Lord,
not.
no.
No.
Something technique.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can give me a word in English that appears in one of the names of the attacks, because I do have the Japanese and English
Southern
names.
Cross.
Finger.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
Shining Finger.
Hang on.
Something Wind.
That's right. That's what his friend used, was something wind technique.
Yeah. Therefore, I think that.
Second wind. I don't know.
Breaking Wind.
Breaking wind. No. Wind does not appear. Finger does not appear.
Does Fist appear?
Fist appears, yes. The
Yay!
Hokuto Hyakuretsuken, the North Star
Spell
Hunter
it.
Cack Fist. I'm just sad none of you remembered Horse Punch.
Like, listen, I watched a lot of G Gundam, and outside of Shining Finger, because it's every single goddamn episode, I don't remember any of their abilities.
All right, fair enough.